morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Nemhauser, and it is a special Thursday afternoon in the Pacific Northwest. Not only is it a turn of the calendar to May, it is May 1st. I feel like that's officially got to be spring at this point. And it is going to be a gorgeous 74, 75 degrees here in Seattle for all of your Seahawks rookies to make their way to the Pacific Northwest, some of them for the very first time, seeing this great part of our country and reporting to the Seahawks, getting their jersey numbers, getting acclimated. And later today, I'll be heading to the VMAC as Gray Zabel will be doing his first official press conference as a Seattle Seahawk. Obviously, he had his post-draft conference call, but I think this will be kind of the official deal, and be great to see Gray. I got to say, it's so cool to, have gone to the Senior Bowl, kind of knowing him, not knowing him that well, seeing him just ball out that first day, interviewing him on that field, then seeing him at the combine, being part of it. This is, just an experience thing more than anything, but just watching that whole thing unfold, and for him to be the one that the Seahawks selected 18, I think it's very, very cool and very special. So looking forward to talking to him. And then tomorrow is when the official practices begin, or at least that the media is going to have access to. So I will be at Seahawks practice, rookie minicamp practice tomorrow, as well as Saturday. And we'll be giving you all of the insights that I have from that. There's going to be so many guys that I'm going to want to look at. I've never been to a rookie minicamp, so I don't know how it is similar or different than any other training camp practice I have observed or other things I've observed in the past. But whatever I find that hopefully is of use, I will share with all of you for sure. If you haven't already, take 1 second to give the show a like, click subscribe. We are charging towards 19,000 subscribers, which means we're getting closer to 20,000 subscribers, and that's going to be a special day when we get there. So subscribe to the channel. Would love to have you as part of the crew here and join us for what's a very, very cool story going on with the Seattle Seahawks roster and this organization. So I got a bunch of fun stuff for you today. Now, I know everyone's waiting to hear the Robbie Uts interview, and I'll get that to you here pretty soon because, I'm guessing that's probably the main thing you want to hear. And there's a couple other things I want to talk through, and I'll probably cover those. I was going to cover some before, but you know what? I'm not going to tease. I'm going to share the Robbie interview probably first. And then I've got a bunch of topics. I want to talk about, the jersey numbers were announced, and Evan and Nathan Ernst were not that excited about talking jersey numbers last night, which is fine. But I think it's always fun. It's a fun chance to kind of reminisce about some of the players that have worn those numbers before. So I'm going to walk you through the Seahawks rookie jersey numbers that were announced and who are the players that have played with those numbers most recently and over Seahawks history. And there's one in particular that I've got a really embarrassing story to tell you about. And so I'll share that in a little bit. Also want to go over the Seahawks. The over-unders have come out from Vegas for win totals, and there's some interesting numbers in there. We'll talk about that as well. Before I get to the Robbie Uts interview, I want to share, as I mentioned before, we did our Hawk Blogger 2025 draft prediction game, and Ryan Pittman is the winner. So congratulations to Ryan. Just sent him an email this morning so that he can hopefully tell me his t-shirt or his sweatshirt size and his address, and I will send him out his prize for winning it. Interestingly, Ryan, despite the fact that he had the winning score, he had 28 of the 32 players selected in the first round. He named 28 out of the 32. He got what would be 8, I think. He got 8 exact hits of players picked at a specific spot. Neither one of those numbers was first. The reason Ryan ended up winning is because he predicted 3 trades that ended up hitting. And I got to admit, this is not to take anything away from Ryan. He won fair and square, but I may adjust my trade scoring a little bit next year. I think picking the draft picks is probably the thing that should really dominate the scoring. And so I might adjust things, but he won fair and square. And the thing that I will just call out is there's one guy that did pick the most accurate number of names in the first round. It wasn't Ryan. It wasn't me. It wasn't Peter Schrager, who, by the way, was the top like NFL media expert. He got 29 out of the 32 names. And by the way, he finished third in the overall scoring. It was Josh Cashman. Josh Cashman got 30 out of the 33, since we picked the first pick of the second round as well. 30 out of the 33 names that were picked in the first round correctly. So that is dang impressive for Josh Cashman, who's following up from a really nice win of the overall, Real Hawk Talk prediction from 2024. So cool for him. I think the person who got the most exact hits was Josh McClelland. Josh McClelland. He got 10 exact hits in that game. So that's pretty cool. Thanks for playing. Hopefully everyone had fun doing it. It was fun doing it this year. The other really small announcement, and maybe it's a really big announcement, if you watch on this YouTube channel and you are annoyed by the fact that after I publish this live episode every day, I edit the audio, I upload it to our audio podcast channel, and then another video shows up on YouTube. And it's like you get a second notification and it's the same video. And maybe sometimes you get confused because YouTube recommends this video that isn't really a video. It's just the audio. I've heard all sorts of complaints. I've worked with YouTube. I finally have found a workaround, I think. So you should hopefully no longer see two versions of each episode of the show up on the channel. And you should still be able to get the audio versions on YouTube Music. So I think I've got a solution in place. I started playing with yesterday. You should see already a bunch of those videos no longer showing on the channel, and they still show as episodes on the YouTube Music channel. So fingers crossed that worked out. I know it's been annoying for a lot of you. It's definitely been annoying for me. So with that, let's get to it. Had a fun conversation with Robbie Uts, one of the 5th round picks for the Seahawks last year, and somebody who, from Kennedy Palomalu's mouth, is going to be part of how this team really makes the transition to being a more physical, tough football team. I talked to Robbie yesterday as he was about to make his way to Seattle for rookie minicamp, and without further ado, here's the conversation with Robbie Uts. I am excited to be joined by new Seattle Seahawks fullback Robbie Uts. Robbie, where are you joining from today?
I'm in Tuscaloosa, Alabama right now. We're flying out tomorrow morning.
Man, well, congratulations. How exciting to have your name. What was it like to have your name called after all these years of working to get to this point?
Man, you can't describe it. It's a dream come true. And I'm not a big crier, but even I teared up a little bit because it's just so much sweat and hard work that went through to this moment. And just so thankful for Seattle for giving me the opportunity.
Well, I mean, you've had a few emotional things to happen to you lately. If I heard right, you got engaged. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Sure did.
Congratulations times two. So did you planned the engagement, the proposal to happen right around the draft?
Yeah, I mean, it had more so to do with my schedule and when I had time off, and my agent kind of sent us out to Cali for a couple of days for a little getaway. So I was like, why not? Let's do it right now.
That's amazing. How long you guys been together?
5.5 years.
Wow. Unbelievable. Well, you're in good company. Your head coach, decided to get his first job as a head coach in the NFL and had his first kid in his first year with the Seahawks. So put them all together. It's not a bad way to go. I think I heard that you're a golfer. Is that right?
Oh yeah.
So tell me, give me a little bit on your golf game. How good, like serious of a golfer are you? Is it just for fun? Like where are you at with golf?
I'm kind of in between serious and for fun. Usually I'm about mid 80s. I actually shot my PR yesterday. I shot a 78. So I think we're
Is that your
good.
first time breaking 80?
Yeah.
Oh,
First time.
man.
So I think we're good to wrap it up for the off season and focus on football now.
Yeah, well, you've got a few golfers for sure in that roster, and Mike McDonald's actually one of them. I just saw him the other day on the course, and you've got some other golfers in that room, as well, Julian Love and a bunch of other guys. So that'll be fun. I'm curious, I don't know how much you know about the fullback lore here in Seattle, but there's been a lot of fullbacks here that people have loved. There's been Max Strong. There has been John L. Williams, was actually first round draft pick back in the 80s, if you can believe, a fullback in the first round. There's even a guy you may or may not have heard of named Owen Schmidt, who made himself famous by banging his helmet against his head until he was bleeding. You remember that guy?
Yeah, I remember him now. Yes, sir.
So we're not going to ask you to do that, but if I was to ask you how you would describe yourself as a player, what would the description be?
I'd just say blue-collar football. Physical. I will put my body on the line for my teammates. Selfless is another good word that I like to describe myself. So,
well, I have to admit, I talked to a bunch of folks about a bunch of players that played different positions, and I hadn't yet been privy to your game. So the statement, I was not familiar with your game, is accurate in this case. When I went back and watched, oh my gosh, man, John Schneider was right to be excited. 274 pounds, runs fast, and loves to hit people. There was a player that you've probably heard of that made this statement famous back in the day for Seattle.
It just clicked in my mind that if you just run through somebody's face, a lot of people ain't going to be able to take that over and 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 over. And over and over and over and over and over again.
So, Robbie, I thought about you when I was listening to that the other day, because the average inside linebacker in the NFL weighs 230 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And the heaviest inside linebacker in the NFL weighs 250 pounds. How are you approaching, when you go in that hole and you're going to be meeting those guys, what's going through your mind?
What's going through my mind is it's just, for lack of a better term, it's nut cutting time. And it's just let's see who's more of a man. And, I'm willing to put my head and my shoulders down and, give them everything I got. And I'm confident that when I do that, I will most likely win that battle. So
where does that come from? How long have you had that? Has that always been there? Did you learn that from somebody?
I mean, I've always had it, even from a little kid when I was playing quarterback. I'd toss the ball and then I'd take off and try to crack back somebody 30 yards down the field. I've just always had that kind of killer instinct. So, just natural for me.
For the other thing that got me really excited watching you and hearing people that have watched you even more than I have is, it's one thing to be an inline blocker and hit the guy that's right in front of you, but being a fullback, you've got to actually be able to target somebody in space and on the move. And that seems to be a strength of your game. Is that something you'd agree with?
Yeah, I'd say for a bigger guy, I do pretty well at it.
And when you're in a situation where you're leading on a play, is your job to be reading like a running back, or is your job to hit the specific assignment and block that specific player independent of where the running back's going to hit the hole?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. So a lot of the times being a fullback or being in the backfield in general as a blocker, your read keys are going to be the same as the running back. So whatever gap he's keying, you're going to key that defender, and whatever way your guy takes him, you're going to hit that hole. And, from there, you kind of know your assignment. Could be several different guys that you're looking out for. But just kind of reacting on the move and just be physical.
Is there a favorite run play for you to block for that you just really enjoy? You get to showcase the way you like to play the game?
Just anything gap scheme.
Yeah. Why that?
Just, when you can pull or have other guys pulling and really pin a guy or just man block on the edge, just anything around the gap scheme world, I feel it kind of brings my strengths out to the light.
Well, and you mentioned a guy in the NFL that you like as a fullback, Patrick Ricard over there in Baltimore, and curious, what do you like about his game?
I just feel like he's another one of me. Everybody's compared me to him, and I've never met him, but I'd love to. But just, seeing a guy that's big, can move around, catch the ball, and he just plays with that selfless attitude that I talked about earlier. It's just it's fun to watch a guy like that. So I kind of try to model my game after him.
Well, one difference between you and Patrick is you've caught the ball a little bit. Now, it's not something you're doing all the time. I know I asked you in your post draft conference call if you'd rather catch a touchdown or block somebody, and you were pretty clear you'd rather block somebody, which was great. But you caught Jalen Milroe's last college touchdown, if I'm right. Is that true?
Yes, sir. Sure did.
How did that feel to kind of end your college career with a 25-yard touchdown?
It was a cool moment. But like I said before, I care more about the team. And just, it sucks to end my college career that way. I feel like we could have beat those boys, but it happens. Sport of football, you win, you lose. But at least I can say I went out on a high note, I guess.
I know a lot of folks probably have asked you about Jalen Milroe, and I just have one question for you about him. People talk about him as a player, and I think I've heard you talk about how hard of a worker he is. I remember college. I had friends who are college athletes, not like you, but college athletes, and the amount of work that just to be a student and to be an athlete is crazy. For him to also be the academic Heisman, talk about give people an idea of the amount of extra work you've got to do to take school that seriously while also being a
I don't think he ever sleeps, because I like to get my 8 hours of sleep in, and I struggle to be as good in all the areas that he is. But yeah, no, he's unbelievably talented, smart, hard worker. And on the field, he's just got that it factor that just not many guys at his position have. So it's been a hell of a ride playing with that kid for the last 4 years.
That's pretty cool to be able to come up and be able to block for him and with him and be able to hang out up here after spending some years with him in Tuscaloosa. So I got a little challenge for you, and we're going to see if you can help me with this. This is a series of stashes on the Seahawks. And so I need you to give me the winner of these 1, 2, and 3. Who ranks 1? Who ranks 2? Who ranks 3?
All right, but you got an old picture of me on there. You got to get an updated
one. How do you feel about these stashes? Give me some color commentary.
All right, so I think number 2 is going to take the cake because the handlebar is hard to do. I can't connect my mustache down here to the handlebar. And number 3 is good. It's working in the right direction. A little bit of length, maybe a little dark. Throw some darkening in there. Help it really pop.
A little pop.
We got some potential up there for sure.
You definitely do. So what do you hope? Like, obviously, you've been drafted. That punches you a ticket.
Yep.
What's your next step? What are you hoping that? After this next week and the week after, what are you hoping to prove and make sure that people walk away knowing that you need to be on this roster? What are you wanting to show?
Well, I mean, it's almost like I'm just restarting, back as a freshman, walking on campus for the first time. People watch my tape, but nobody knows how I am as a person. They don't know what I'm about. And the biggest thing for me is proving to my teammates who I'm working beside every single day, proving to them that I'm reliable, proving to them that I care more about them than myself. And there's one thing I could take away from this off season, just proving myself to those guys and earning their respect would be a win.
Well, good luck to you there. And I'll tell you, if you ever need to get out on a golf course out here, you want some time off, you let me know. I got some good connections on that front. But Robbie, congratulations on being drafted. Congratulations on being a Seahawk. Congratulations on your engagement. And I know a lot of Seahawks fans are really excited to see you suit up and mash the first linebacker in the hole.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. That is Robbie Uts, your new fullback for the Seattle Seahawks. Folks, how can you not love that guy? Just everything you want in a fullback, everything you want in a rookie, and Did you hear? Did your ears catch it when he said how he wants to be known by his teammates? Bet you Mike McDonald heard it. Reliable. He wants them to know that they can count on him, and that is, people talk about reliability as kind of this. It's not an exciting word when it comes to a professional athlete. Like, that's not the first thing. Fast, big, strong, explosive. Star power, charisma, like all these other things probably come, but being there, I mean, one of Marshawn Lynch's best attributes, despite like in all the amazing attributes that he has going for him, was that he was reliable. He was there game in, game out, carry in, carry out. And that's very rare at the running back position. And so the fact that, multiple opportunities, even in that conversation, whether it was talking about his final, catching a touchdown pass in the final game in the bowl game where they lost to Michigan, and him deflecting it back to like, it was great, but the team lost, which sucked. Or talking about coming up here and wanting his impression that he makes to be about like how much he cares about them and the team and how reliable he's going to be, I think is great. I think it's great, and there's going to be competition. He's not going to be handed this job. Interesting, not surprising that he talked about gap scheme being his favorite. I don't think that's a red flag in any way. I just think, Patrick Ricard is a 300-pound fullback, and he's generally been more of a gap scheme guy. Robbie's more athletic than Patrick Ricard. He's lighter, but he's also, I think, faster. And I don't think he's going to have an athletic limitation that will keep him from succeeding in the zone scheme. Be interesting to see if there's any, learning curve there or things that he has to go through. But he's in good hands with this coaching staff in terms of knowing exactly what the steps are, what the keys are, how to read it, how to block it. And the other piece to this is that even though we talk a lot about wide zone, this, Clint Kubiak is a wide zone team. They don't run only wide zone. They do run gap scheme as well. So, I think that's a positive regardless, and I think the implication from him is he just wants to hit people. He wants the most physical style of play. And so I love that from him. Love talking to him. Appreciate him taking some time before he flies out here. And, hopefully we'll get a chance to tee him up here at some point during his career. And, breaking 80, that's when you're getting to being a pretty good golfer. I at least for me, that's kind of the cutoff point. I think mid 80s is, that's playing pretty good golf. But if you can break 80 now and then, that's in the upper echelon. So good for him. Happy to hear that he broke his PR just the other day. So as we transition and talk about this rookie class and some of the numbers that they picked up, and then I'm going to talk to you about the over-under totals from Vegas. But Robbie's number was announced yesterday along with the other draft picks, and his number is going to be number 40. And if you go through Seahawks history, there has not been a number 40 that was particularly a standout player. So it's kind of there for him to, make his own. I think maybe the most well-known Seahawk that wore number 40 was Derek Coleman back on the 2013 squad as a fullback. So they did have another fullback that wore that number. But I mean, you're talking about the last guy that wore it was Daryl Johnson. I got to admit, wasn't really familiar with him. He played 4 games for the Seahawks. Bo Scarborough, the running back, wore it for 1 year. Tyvis Powell wore it back in 2016. Phillip Adams, Eddie Williams, Chris Henry, Lewis Rankin, Oliver Celestin, John Howell, Kerry Joseph. He had a 1 year wearing it. He had some decent years with the team. Kim Mack, John Williams, not John L. Williams, John Williams, different player. and Walter Packer. So 40 has not been a number that has really been in Seahawks lore. So it's there for Robbie Uts to really make it his own. And we'll see how that looks on him and how he does with it. The one that, we'll go from a first round pick on down. Gray Zabel is going to be wearing number 76, and cool that he's going to do that. That number, despite the fact that Steve Hutchinson is a Hall of Famer, it has not been retired. It's, it's funny. I respect there's some folks that still really hold the grudge against Steve Hutchinson for the poison pill. It's taken me like probably 20 years to get over it. So like, I still harbor a little bit of frustration about that process. Most of it, to be honest, is Tim Ruskell. But in any event, I got some comments on our Real Hawk Talk show from last night, which was really fun. You should check out Real Hawk Talk if you missed it. But Steve Hutchinson doesn't have any say in anything with the Seahawks. He cheated us out of, more Super Bowls or whatever it was. I don't know. Like, I respect if you got sports hate and you can hold a grudge for that long with that much energy. So that's fine. But in any event, Gray Zabel is going to wear 76. That was actually worn as recently as last year. Brandon Peely, the nose tackle, wore 76. He didn't play for the team, but that was his number. Then Ben Brown, but the last notable player to wear 76, and there's been a few. 76 has had some good run in the Seahawks organization. Dwayne Brown wore it from 2017 to 2021. Jermaine Ifedi wore it from 2016 to 2017. Let's hope that's not a contagious part of this. Russell Okung, the first John Schneider and Pete Carroll draft pick ever, wore it from 2010 to 2015. And of course, Steve Hutchinson wore it from 2001 to 2005. Certainly the best of all of the 76s. Riddick Parker, Bill Hitchcock actually played a few years, 91 to 94. He wore it. All the way back, John Borchardt, Greg Ramsey, and then Steve August. Steve August was he the first pick in Seahawks history? I don't think. Let me look this up. I got to look this up because Steve August, that name jumps out to me. He was not the first pick. He was a first round pick in 1977. He played a number of years, was a starter for 6 years. So I don't know why that name sticks out to me, but he was one of the early draft picks. So a number of offensive linemen for the Seahawks, whether it's Dwayne Brown, Steve Hutchinson, Russell Okung, or even Steve August, have been pretty successful players for the team. So 76, it's going to look good on you, Gray. Can't wait to see him in it. The next one that is interesting. So this is an embarrassing story. I've got to admit it. I talk about the Seahawks every single day at this point, right? I do a show 365 days a year. And I sometimes do more than one show, and I cover the team, and I walk through the VMAC and look like all that stuff. I've been a fan for 45 years, whatever it is. And I saw Nick Emanwari got number 3. And my first thought was, oh man, I'm a Blazers fan. I love Cliff Robinson. He was my favorite player growing up. He was number 3. That's really cool. Nick's got that same number. And then it occurred to me this morning that Russell Wilson was number 3. I swear to God, I forgot Russ was number 3. I don't know why. I put him out of my mind, but it's true. I forgot. So the interesting part of this, and by the way, he's not even the most recent number 3. Artie Burns in 2023 wore the number 3. That's kind of, I missed that, but that happened. So picture this. What if Nick Emanwari ends up being an all-pro Hall of Fame player? What if he ends up being an unbelievably great player? What are they going to do for jersey retirement? Is there a chance Nick Emanwari could push Russ out of the Ring of Honor or a jersey retirement or anything like what are they going to do if Nicky Manwari ends up being unbelievable? Now, the most likely outcome here is Russell Wilson is the best quarterback in franchise history and will take his place rightfully where it should. But by taking this number, there's at least a chance that a guy that's the most athletic safety ever measured, playing for Mike McDonald, may end up giving him a run for his money. We'll see. It at least could be kind of a funny thing to monitor as things go on. Other number threes through Seahawks history: Josh Brown, the kicker, Ron Stark, Rick Meyer was a number 3 back in the 90s, Rick Donnelly, and John Leipold. So those are your number 3s. Some big hits, some big misses. Elijah Arroyo picks number 18. And, that's a little bit of an odd number for a tight end, but we'll kind of see. It was worn twice last year. Once Josh Ross, the linebacker, Marcus Sims, practice squad basically players. In 2023, Lance Boykin wore it. Laquan Treadwell, the wide receiver, in 2022. Freddie Swain wore it for a couple of years. Jerron Brown for a couple of years. Kason Williams for a couple of years. The most famous, I would say, number 18 for the Seahawks was Sidney Rice. Wore that for a couple of years in Seattle. Mike Haas, Corin Robinson wore it for a couple of years before I think he changed his number. He wore it for 1 year, in 2008. So he'd had other numbers. DJ Hackett, one of my favorite stealthy Seahawks players. I loved watching DJ Hackett as a receiver. He wore it from 2005 to 2007. Daryl Hobbs, Stan Gelbaugh, and Herman Weaver are the other number 18s. So there's a chance for Elijah Arroyo to make this his, because, Sidney Rice certainly stands out, but, I don't know that Sidney Rice is in the all-timer list yet. Sidney, if you're listening, love your wine, appreciate everything you do, but I do think Elijah Arroyo has a chance to make a slightly bigger impact than Sidney Rice did, but it's still a tall number, or a tall hill to climb. Jalen Milroe picks number 6. Now, this number does not have a lot of history with the Seahawks. Only 6 players have ever been number 6 for the Seahawks. Sam Howell was the most recent number 6, and I think that didn't go so well. Quandre Diggs is by far the most famous number 6 in Seahawks history. Wore it from 2021 to 2023. Austin Davis, the backup quarterback, wore it. Charlie Whitehurst, backup quarterback from 2010 to 2011, wore it. Russell Griffith and Frank Garcia back in the 80s. So certainly an ownable number for Jalen Milroe, should he choose to, become the player that everybody hopes he becomes. Next on the list is Riley Mills, number 98. 98 is a pretty good number. Now, surprisingly, it hasn't necessarily had like the big standout players. There's one on this list, but last year Roy Robertson Harris wore it. He did well with it. Alton Robinson wore it for a couple of years. Rasheem Green wore it for a year. Shamar Stephen, Garrison Smith, Greg Scruggs wore it for a couple of years. He contributed to that Super Bowl team. Raheem Brock wore it for a couple of years, did well in Seattle. Nick Reed, you remember the Oregon Duck who pushed Michael Bennett off the roster that year. Julian Peterson had a really nice career with the Seahawks. He wore it 1 year in 2008. Baraka Atkins. You remember Baraka Atkins? What a great name. Grant Wistrom, depending on how you feel about Grant Wistrom, like not a great player, like was an expensive free agent from the Rams, but he was a contributor to that Super Bowl team in 2005. Cedric Woodard. That's a deep pull for people that remember Cedric Woodard. He played 3 years. But the most famous 98 in Seahawks history, Sam Adams, defensive tackle, wore it for 5 years in the 90s. One of the great Seahawks that gets talked about the least. He went on to play for the Ravens and did a lot of great work for them. So I think more people remember him with the Ravens, but Sam Adams was great playing next to Cortez Kennedy for a number of those years. Kelvin Murphy and Elston Ridgel are the only other 98. So that's 98's had a lot of people play with it, unlike Jalen Milrose, number 6. Number 15, Torrey Horton. Torrey Horton. So that was worn last year by Jaron Hall. Marquise Goodwin wore it for a year. John Ursua. Brandon Marshall. Yes, the famous Brandon Marshall for all the time he played with the Seahawks. The most famous number 15, Jermaine Kearse. Jermaine Kearse wore it for 3 years with the Seahawks. Obviously was a key member of their Super Bowl teams. Matt Flynn wore it for a year in 2011. And this is a little bit of trivia because he changed his number, but Doug Baldwin wore it in his rookie year. If you look back at rookie season pictures of Doug Baldwin, he was number 15 before he changed to number 89. So, that's a good one there. Brandon Stokely wore it in 2010. Seneca Wallace wore it for 4 years as backup quarterback. Jeff Kemp and Dave Finzer. So some pretty notable names in there. Not all of them for a long period of time. Jermaine Kearse wore it for the longest. But if you can have a number that Doug Baldwin, wore for even a year, that's good luck. We talked about Robbie Utz's number 40. Let's talk about 77, which is Bryce Cabledew's number. Bryce Cabledew, a lot of people have worn 77, most of them on the offensive line. Well, maybe not. Actually, it kind of goes both ways. Quentin Jefferson wore it in 2022. Ethan Posick wore it for 4 years with the Seahawks until 2021. Ataba Rubin on the defensive side wore it for a couple years. James Carpenter was a 77 during the Super Bowl run, 2012 to 2014. Before him, Jeriel King, Stacey Andrews, the massive 400-pound guard. He used to play for the Falcons, played for the Seahawks for a year. Brandon Fry, Damian McIntosh, Floyd Pork Chop Womack wore it from 2001 to 2008. Loved Pork Chop Womack. Derek Graham, Matt Joyce, Jeff Bryant. Man, Jeff Bryant is an all-timer for the Seahawks. He wore it from 82 to 93, easily the most famous 77 in Seahawks history. Doug Hawley, Charles Wiley, Bill Gregory, and Richard Harris rounded out. Bill Gregory had a decent career as well. So 77's got some shoes to fill. Most of that, like the biggest on the defensive side, but you have had some offensive linemen that have done something with that number. And then Damian Martinez. We got 3 more to go. Some of you might be like, why are we spending time on this? I think it's fun. So that's why I'm doing it. 22 is Damian Martinez's number, the running back. Last person to wear it, you probably remember, is Trey Brown, the cornerback for the last 3 years. Quentin Dunbar before him. And then CJ Prosise was the last running back to wear it. Fingers crossed. CJ Prosise was talented, but had trouble staying on the field. Fred Jackson, former Bills running back that came here in 2015. He wore it. Robert Turbin wore it for a few years. Julius Jones wore it for a couple of years in Seattle. Jimmy Williams, the cornerback. Damian Robinson, Paul Miranda, Fred Thomas, the old cornerback. Bino Bryant. Yep, Bino Bryant. John Vaughn. Remember him? I used to be really high on John Vaughn back in the 90s. Nesby Glasgow, the defensive back, talented defensive back. Tony Blue, and then the most famous 22 of them all, Dave Brown, the defensive back for the Seahawks in the 70s and 80s, wore it for 10 years and was an absolute monster, taking the ball away from opponents. So Damian Martinez has some work to do if he wants to make 22 his, but it is his for the time being. Mason Richmond is number 78. The last number 78, Stone Forsythe. So come on, Mason, let's up the game at 78 for sure. Alex Boone. God, I forgot Alex Boone played for the Seahawks for a year. DJ Fluker wore it for a couple of years. Luke Jokel, Bradley Sowell. This is not a good list. Alvin Bailey. I did like Alvin Bailey, who was, I think what Alvin Bailey's one of his best contributions to the Seahawks was in the NFC Championship game. After the Seahawks were trailing at halftime, the Seahawks went to their heavy formation with tackle eligible, and Alvin Bailey was that tackle eligible. And they just ran the ball down the 49ers' throats. They just ran it down their throats. Alvin Bailey was a big part of that. So I'll always have a soft spot for Alvin Bailey. Alan Barber, Tyler Columbus, Kyle Williams, Robert Pollard, Antonio Cochran, the defensive lineman, Mike Kime, Eric Hayes, Doug Hawley, Tim Burnham, Bob Kreider, David Graham, and Bob Newton. So that number is wide open. There's a lot of not so great offensive linemen. So let's hope Mason Richmond can be the one that really makes it mean something. And then the last one, Ricky White, is number 86. And Ricky White, that number was last owned by Pharaoh Brown. So I think, not a high bar to clear for Ricky White to make people forget about who last wore that number. Before Pharaoh Brown, Aesop Winston, Jacob Hollister, Brandon Williams, Chase Kaufman, Zach Miller. Zach Miller did well with that number for the Super Bowl era, 2011 to 2014. Chris Baker, John Owens, Courtney Taylor, old wide receiver, Jeremy Stevens, another tight end, wore it from 2002 to 2006. Christian Fourier, another tight end, 96 to 2001. Rob Thomas, the receiver, Travis McNeil, Mike Tice, Nate Tice's dad, the tight end, wore it from 81 to 88, Donald Snell and Jesse Green. So not exactly a wide receiver number, at least through Seahawks history. So it's going to look a little odd. Ricky White, most people describe him as slender. So when you've got 86, that's a big number on his body. I'm really curious how that's going to look on him. But fun stuff there. So if you haven't already, give the show a like and click subscribe. I want to talk to you in a second about what's going on with Vegas over-unders and some surprising numbers that are coming out there. And, before you do that, give the show a like, click subscribe, join over at patreon.com/hawkblogger. Get the audio versions of this podcast, all with sweetened, equalized audio, ad-free. And then if you want, join at youtube.com, join as a member here as a club level or higher. Either Patreon or club level membership here will get you access to the Discord channel where there's all sorts of great conversation that's just continuing throughout the day. Really, really nice community, fun group of people. And I just got to say, man, I really don't know how long this deal is going to last, but go over to jkboots.com, use code HawkBlogger. Get $75 off the best boots you will ever own. These are all handcrafted, handmade boots. They take like 6 to 8 weeks for them to put these things together. And Washington owned company in Spokane, family owned. And not only will you get $75 off, but we'll also give $15 for every boot sold to the Wildland Firefighters Foundation that helps keep the Northwest forests safe by keeping our Northwest forest firefighters safe. And it's a great deal. So get $75 off, get a great pair of boots, and help keep Northwest forests safe. And that is a tongue twister that I'm managing to do. So I'm proud of myself on that one. All right. Let's see. Did I miss any super chats? I'm looking. I don't think I did. So I think we're good to go there. The next thing I wanted to kind of spend a few minutes on is Las Vegas. And if who really cares is the starting statement. Who really cares? Well, I'll tell you what, I kind of care. It kind of bothers me a little bit when Vegas puts out these over-unders. And for the win total for the NFC West for next season, well, for this season, depending on how you want to talk about it, for the 2025 season, they have the 49ers with an over and under of 10.5 wins. That's like the same over under as the Detroit Lions, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Buffalo Bills. That seems wild to me, but okay. We'll talk about why I think that's a little wild, but the 49ers, 10.5 over under. The Rams, at least here. No, sorry. I got to go back. So it is the 10.5 for the 49ers. But the other teams that are at 10.5 are not. I misread. I was looking at 2024. Who other with 10.5? The Lions are one of them as a 10.5 over under. And I think that's it. So the Eagles are 11.5. The Bills are 11.5. So I was a little bit off, but still they're equal to the Lions. That's crazy to me. The Rams are next. They are 9.5. The other teams that are 9.5 in the NFL, to give you an idea of what Vegas is kind of given, what tier they're putting the Rams at. The Chargers are 9.5. The Commanders, NFC Championship participants last year, 9.5. Texans, Broncos, Packers, Bucks, Bengals. The Bengals, that is very bold. The Bengals are 9.5. All right, so that's the tier for the Rams, 9.5, one game behind the 49ers. All right. Then the Cardinals are 8.5. Are you getting the trend here of where we're going to end up? The Cardinals are 8.5. The other teams that are 8.5, the Dolphins, the Bears, the Vikings, who won 14 games last year. Now, granted, they lost their quarterback, but we'll talk about that in a second. And the Steelers. So Vegas has got the Cardinals at the same tier as the Vikings. Interesting. Then we get to the Seahawks. Your Seattle Seahawks, who just had a draft that has been universally celebrated, that got all sorts of things kind of going their way, have a 7.5 win over under. That means if the Seahawks finish 8-9, you would win money. Like, you would win good money if you bet the over. For you to win, they would have to go, if you bet the under, they would have to go 7-10. That's the same over under that they had last year. So basically, Vegas is saying this is the same, even though they won 10 games last year, despite a 7.5 win over under. We are judging this team essentially to be the same as they were to start last year, even though Mike McDonald has had now a full year, got his feet underneath him, even though they have, added all these draft picks, even though they have what was a top 5 defense for the last part of the year. If this team wins 7 games, something's gone really wrong. It's gone really wrong, I think. And the other teams that are at the 7.5 mark, just to give you an idea, the Patriots, they've got them equal to the Patriots. The Jaguars, the Colts, the Cowboys and Falcons are not the worst company, but it's not good company either. So, man, the disrespect, the absolute disrespect for this Seattle Seahawks team is awesome. Bring it. Bring it. If you think a team with JSN, Ernest Jones, Leonard Williams, Byron Murphy, Boye Mafe, Derek Hall, Julian Love, Kobe Bryant, Reek Woolen, Devin Witherspoon, Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, Robbie Uts, Gray Zabel, Charles Cross, Abe Lucas, Cooper Kupp, DeMarcus Lawrence, Nicky Manwari. If you think that that's a 7-win team, okay, bet, as the kids say, literally. So, the Seahawks were always kind of an underdog when they're at their best. People like to forget about the teams up here in the Pacific Northwest, Southern Alaska, as Matt Hasselback used to call it. And so I get it. I get that there's some skepticism. I don't understand how you can look at a 49ers team that won 6 games last year, lost all sorts of players along their roster, added rookies. Like, their defensive line was atrocious. They added rookies that may work out, but rookies, like, be careful about depending on rookies. Is Fred Warner going to be healthier as he gets older? He played on a stress fracture in his foot. Everyone's like, well, he'll be healthy this year. Well, will he? I don't know. Is George Kittle going to get healthier as he gets older? Is Trent Williams going to get healthier as he turns 39, 38, whatever he's going to be? Is Nick Bosa, who seems to get injured even though he's on the younger side, is he going to get healthier? Is Christian McCaffrey going to be healthier? Is he ever going to be the player he once was? Malik Mustafa, who was a promising rookie safety for them, tore his ACL, is out for most of this year. Like, okay. You think that's a 3-win better team than the Seahawks team I just listed off? Like, I don't see it. I do not see it. The Rams, I think the Rams at 9.5 is right. That's where they should be. I got no problems with the Rams being where they were. They won 10 games last year. I think they're a good team, young team, building team, well coached, and their big thing is Matt Stafford and if he can stay healthy. So I don't have any problems with 9.5 for the Rams. The Cardinals being ahead of the Seahawks, I don't want to get demonetized, but I've got some words about that. Like, what are you talking about? That's the losingest franchise in NFL history. They have the most losses of any franchise in the history of the NFL. You're telling me that Kyler Murray is all of a sudden going to click, that he's going to be a leader, that he's going to show up when adversity strikes? Nah, not going to happen. Did you see what Mike McDonald did to Kyler Murray when he played him twice last year? Wasn't pretty. And I don't think you're going to figure out Mike McDonald. I think he figures you out. And James Conner, I love, but he gets injured because he runs like he runs. And he's a massively key part of that team. Marvin Harrison Jr. wasn't quite a bust as a rookie, but he was as close as you can get to a bust as a number 3 overall pick. He's going to be fine. He'll be a fine player. He might even be a good player. But that was not a promising start to his career. I don't know. I like a lot of things the Cardinals did this offseason. I don't know how you look at that team and say it's better than the Seahawks team that swept them last year and won 10 games. I don't see it. So the 7.5 of all these numbers, the 7.5 for the Seahawks to me is just the most wild of all of them. But it is what it is. So we will start to learn how realistic that is. Let's hope it's not as this unfolds. I will be there to talk to Gray Zabel later today. Make sure you click subscribe, click the bell to get notified. I may have more content for you later today. And I will be back with you tomorrow as we get ready for the first practice of the minicamp. Until then, have a great rest of your Thursday. I'm Brian Nemhauser. This has been another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings.